All right, well, we're here for episode 4 of the Shuttlecock podcast. I have with me Bennett Weaver, guitarist and punk rock musician and all-around great guy, Bennett Weaver. How you doing?
Oh, not bad. How are you doing, Aaron?
Excellent. Doing good. You've played in, several bands over the last few years, like the Drippies, Killakee Kat, Columbine Kids, and, you're working on a lot of stuff right now also. But I was curious about how, what some of your first bands were.
Yeah. Well, the first band I was in was in elementary school. Started it probably, I think, around 5th or 6th grade. And it was called Hat Trick with a Q instead of a CK because that made it immensely more cooler. With some of my friends, and actually the drummer of that band is still the drummers of one of my bands today, Killakee Kat more specifically.
And after you played in Hat Trick, there's a band called Against the Generation.
Yep. That was kind of more like indie rock stuff, and yeah, I was in that band for, I believe, like a couple years. And yeah, lots of talented musicians in that band. A lot of people who were in that band are still doing really cool things with music today.
Just taking kind of different routes from you.
Yeah, I know Brooks Brown is doing a lot of like DJ stuff and like kind of electronic music, and I know that's going out really well for him. I know Noah Spencer is still pretty deep in the music as well, doing stuff with that. Yeah, but everyone I was in that band with were really great musicians.
And so the first band you were in, Hat Trick, was kind of like classic rock influence.
Yeah, lots of classic rock covers.
And the second one, Against the Generation, was kind of indie rock type stuff.
Yeah.
Because I know you guys played a lot of Two Door Cinema Club covers.
Yeah,
and that was kind of your jam in middle school. And that's, probably what I think you were listening to a lot of when I met you, like when we could hang out with Jack and just all of the, like when the Shawnee Mission kids met the Olathe kids.
The kids and combined.
Yeah, and then we ganged up. That was a lot of fun, just kind of meeting everyone, hanging out every weekend, and just sharing a lot of music that way.
Lots of great memories.
And just roaming around the Shawnee Mission South area and doing weird stuff.
Yeah, definitely crawling all over the suburbs with that huge group of people that came together. That was really nice.
I think it kind of went from just goofing around at the Deemer Elementary School and just goofing off, and then I think near the end of high school it just kind of extended into doing donuts in the Shawnee Mission South parking lot and blasting rap music. So it's kind of, I enjoyed how that friend group evolved over the years.
Yeah, very much so.
But and Against the Generation was a band that played the Refuge a few times.
Yeah,
and
right in Olathe too.
Yeah, so to any Olathe old heads watching,
shout out.
If you know, the Refuge.
You know who you are.
The greatest Johnson County venue of all time. Just amazing Christian folks, just good hearts, just decent music sometimes.
Good boxers too.
Oh yeah, they had a little
they had the boxing
martial arts room. Back, yeah. I don't think I ever participated in that, but
definitely had to get around a lot of the people boxing back there because I know that was kind of the backstage.
Yeah, that was the green room.
Yeah,
it was all padded and
sometimes when bands would stay back there, they'd actually be having class at the same time.
Really?
Yeah.
I was never there for that. I think I went back there once or twice, but yeah, I was usually just hanging out and just watching my friends' bands. I know that the Almost Heroes played there. Did you you guys played a show with them?
I believe so, yes.
Some other incredibly obscure middle school indie rock. Man, you got an important call you're getting here.
Yeah, no, I'm just going to turn it off.
Okay. Didn't want to put you on blast there. I'm sorry. So after middle school, you kind of, we all linked up and we ended up going to a lot of like house shows and DIY punk shows. What were like some of your earliest memories of those shows?
Oh, I think I can pinpoint it back directly to the first DIY show I ever went to, which I have to credit you with to getting me into going to DIY shows
Which one's
in the
that?
first place. The first one was actually a show that the band that we were both in played. It was I think it was originally supposed to be at the Dollhouse, and then we showed up there, and then no one was there. And then we figured out that it had gotten moved, I think, to...
Oh, yeah.
Was it Worst House?
Maybe. Yeah, so that band was Bad Mouth. And do you remember who that show was with?
It was with Day Drinker, which was actually Noah Hayes' old band.
Yeah.
And we were into Drippies now. And Shapeshifter. And Neutron Rats, and I believe they're from New
Neutron
York.
Rats. Okay, that was it. I remember that now. And you got their record. You were really excited to
I
get
still
their
have
record.
it. Yeah, it's sitting at my house right now.
Not gonna let that one go.
Oh,
anytime.
definitely not.
Yeah. And so yeah, I guess that was, all those people, like almost all those people who were in bands at that show are still, making music just in different bands at this point. I know Trey, for some reason, is like embarrassed or like not stoked about having played in Shapeshifter, but that was a tight band. I don't know.
I thought they were awesome. And the only like music I've ever been able to really find with them was that I think it was the Raw Shit demo, where like the recording quality sounds like they were recording it out of like a garbage can.
Yeah.
You can like it's barely audible.
Yeah, I don't know why they like that had some like I have the MP3s of their first demo that I just put on like YouTube recently, so that sounds a little better. Like, and those are good songs. I don't know.
I remember when we saw them live, I was blown away though.
Yeah, that definitely happened with me with like several of like the early bands I saw back in like 2012 and 13 and all that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But when we were doing Bad Mouth together, I think it like 13 or 14. I can't even remember that.
Probably 14. Yeah, I believe it was 2014.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think the only other DIY shows I went to before I moved out of KC for a while was they were at the Sandbox. Yeah.
Yeah, those are fun shows.
Yeah, R.I.P. Sandbox.
R.I.P. But you ended up recording the new Bad Mouth demo that we did together. But you kind of have been doing, home recordings for like a long time, haven't you?
Long time. Since I was, I think, 13. Like right after I started middle school, I believe.
So you would be doing solo songs outside of like the bands you were doing then?
Oh, yeah. Still am.
Yeah. What were some of the songs like back then?
Lots of like kind of like folky pop songs. And I don't know, kind of just all over the place. I had a bad habit of like starting projects and recording like some songs for them and then kind of just like forgetting about them and just like starting other projects that sounded completely different. I think at this point I probably have lost count of how many just like side projects I've started and then I've just kind of ditched after recording like 4 or 5 songs for them.
Would you say to an extent you still do that, or do you think you're able to get more?
I definitely still do.
But do you think you're more focused at all now?
Yeah, probably. Now that I'm just older, I kind of know my strengths and weaknesses, I guess. But I always like to dip off. Like, I don't try to, like, I get bored easily, so I kind of have to find fun ways to keep myself entertained, and it's just by, like, recording different types of music and messing around just, like, with different genres and stuff. And
even delving into Never Shout Never covers.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. It's out there.
Hey, we were all in middle school once.
Yeah, no, I listened to like terrible pop punk music too. Like everybody has their stuff.
Everyone has their stuff.
If you come on the podcast, I'll find your stuff. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
In Bennett's case, I knew his stuff a while.
Oh, yeah, you know all the bad ones, too.
And the good ones.
And the good ones.
Like, I got favorite tracks off of your, like, 2013 solo releases. Like, I know
like,
those.
I'm trying to remember, what was it?
Was
Second to Last, right? That was...
I don't remember that song. But I remember Yahweh. That's a nice song.
Oh, yeah.
Named after
Squidlet one.
the Yahweh Underground song. Yeah, Squidlet was a fun project. But
Yeah, that took a long time to record, too.
yeah.
That took, I think, I think that was about 2 years it took to record. There's like 20 songs.
Yeah, you were kind of like releasing them one by one
Yeah.
at some point, but you finally just kind of packaged it together.
Yeah, that was fun, yeah. And it's funny, apparently, my sister who goes to Shawnee Mission South, though, apparently that's like resurfaced at Shawnee Mission South. Like, apparently that's like a thing that like kids listen to on their computers.
You're a legend.
Yeah. I'm kind of glad out of everything I've recorded, that's the
Yeah.
that's the
Are
one.
you gonna go back to give a guest talk at like some music class, or like you are the success story?
Trying never to step foot in that high school.
Oh, you didn't have fun at Shawnee Mission South?
No, I left actually.
Yeah, you did end up, and that is a topic I do want to get into at some point if you're okay with that.
Fine.
No, but yeah, a lot of those songs were like kind of like you were really into waves at that point too, right? So it was like
Oh, yeah,
a lot of
definitely.
like kind of garage, like surfy rock
definitely.
stuff.
And like, yeah, I still listen to stuff like that every now and again too.
Yeah, I listened to the new Waves album that
I
just
did
came
too.
out. It was solid.
I did too.
And he kind of got back into like he used to do a lot of samples on the old stuff, and I think he
Yeah, I
kind of
was gonna say,
reintroduced
it definitely
that.
sounds more King of the Beachy than it did kind of like Nirvana-y.
I don't think he's ever really released a bad album as Waves, so
I wouldn't say that either.
yeah, I'm gonna keep listening, even though it's not like the main like genre I'm really into right now.
Oh yeah, same.
Like I went and saw Fiddler when they came like last year or
I actually
something.
really wanted to. I was out of town though.
Yeah, I remember, like, I think there was, like, another band that you were super into, but, like, oh, you did end up seeing Merchandise when they came back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was... Are you talking about the time like a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, oh, were you at their show with Title Fight, too?
I was not. I'm
Yeah.
not sure if I was in Kansas City at that point, but yeah, I remember like it was like 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome. Actually, there's only like 12 people there too, which
Yeah, that was a bummer that there were, like, not that many people there.
yeah, I was worried because the night that was happening, actually, we were having Nightcrawlers practice and we were trying to record some stuff. And when you're recording music, it's very easy to lose track of time. By the time we all kind of like were done, me and Jack looked at the time and we were like, "Oh shit, it's like we need to like go." Like Lawrence is like half an hour drive away, and we were like speeding down the highway there, and I realized I didn't like have any money either. I was like, "Oh man." And we got there, and then like no one was running the door, and I saw this. I'm like, there's only like 12 people there, and
So you just walked in?
Pretty much, yeah. I kind of like tried to find someone to like Jack was gonna like cover for me, and we were like trying to kind of find someone to give our money to, and at that point, everyone was kind of just like sitting around. Yeah, and there's only like 12 people there, and Merchandise was playing, so we kind of just like walked up and we're like right in front of the stage.
Yeah.
And we did show up late, and I think we only got like the last half of their set, but
I think you missed, like, 2 or 3 songs. Like, it wasn't a super long set, so.
yeah, it was kind of weird. I was expecting.
Yeah, they have, like,
I remember when we were
5
walking down the
records.
street to the Bottleneck, there were probably 3 times more people watching this dude on like a balance beam.
Yeah, the Busker Fest was
Yeah.
happening, and I saw the most amazing thing. I don't know if you heard about this from anyone, but like as I was walking to the venue, I saw this man playing his acoustic guitar and singing a cover of Scars by Papa Roach, and it was the most
Absolutely beautiful.
It was just gorgeous. It was. Mwah. No, but yeah, that was a fun night. And I had like burger stand that night too. Like I was
Yeah,
very
I
stoked.
wanted to try to hit up one of the food trucks that
Oh,
were
yeah.
out and about. They were like all closed though by the time the show was done. So I think me and Jack ended up going to Pyramid Pizza.
Do you get into a lot of food truck stuff like in Kansas
I
City?
try to when I see them.
What are your favorite ones to hit?
I don't really have favorites. I don't usually go food truck like hunting. Usually it's more kind of like if I see it, like I'll get a feeling like
Like I'll just
that sounds really nice right now. I remember there was like this gyro stand that was across the street from my old house, though, that would set up on like Fridays and Saturday nights. And it was good sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, you go over sometimes and you'd get one and be like, oh, yeah, this is really good. And some other times you'd go over and get one and be like, it's not really good.
Luck of the draw.
I don't remember like which. I think it was like for an actual like restaurant in Kansas City that they just had like the stand out and about sometimes, but it was definitely hit or miss.
But I guess that kind of brings us to another period in your life where, so we were playing in Badmouth together, and then somewhat out of nowhere, at least to us,
disappeared off of the
you
face of the
disappeared, and we had no clue what was going on for many months. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. Well, I left Shawnee Mission South, and then I started going to Kansas City Academy, which is kind of like a really small, artsy, like, private school in, like, Waldo. And I learned that when you're in a school with, like, 30 people, it's a lot easier to get in trouble because there's not a whole lot of kids to hide behind.
Yeah.
So basically, I got in some really big trouble there, and then I ended up getting shipped off to a wilderness program in Hawaii. And I pretty much lived in like a garden for like about 3 months and didn't take a proper shower the entire time. And I had like 2 pairs of clothes, and I just like gardened and did a lot of like therapy like stuff there, which shout out to Pacific Quest. I actually really missed that place. I ended up really liking it. But then after I left there, I went to a therapeutic boarding school in New Hampshire for a year. Fuck you, Short Ridge Academy. I did not like that place. And yeah, it's kind of hard to describe the feelings of going to a place like that, being completely removed from, especially at like Pacific Quest, like you're pretty much completely removed from society, like, and you have like people like you have staff members like watching you all the time. You have like absolutely no privacy.
Yeah, and you didn't have like access to the internet.
No access to the internet. No access to like no electronics like whatsoever. And then at boarding school, we got computers, which like 90% of the internet was like blocked. And I think the first time I actually got contact with the outside world was I could download Spotify on my computer.
Yeah, so you Spotify messaged Jack?
I Spotify messaged Jack, and I don't remember what I said exactly, but I was pretty much like, I'm alive.
Because like your parents or nobody had like really filled us in even. Like I think Jack might have known stuff, and like I'm not quite sure.
They vaguely told a handful of people like what happened, but
Yeah.
like I think that almost kind of made it worse. I know. I'm trying to remember some of like the rumors that Jack, because when I started like I figured out I could like message people on Spotify, which I never knew you could do that. I remember like the moment I actually like got a reply back, I was like, cool. I remember he was like, I'm like, well, what do people think happened to me? He was like, oh, I think the biggest one is people think you died and that your parents are just in denial about it. There was one where people thought I like started doing a bunch of meth or something, and like was like left the state and was like, I don't know. There was a bunch of weird rumors, but I was just like, yeah, they're not that cool. I'm like, I'm stuck at a boarding school.
So then Jack came back and set the story straight for everyone.
Yeah, the more time I spent there, the more, like, by the time you left, about only 60% of the internet was blocked. But I remember it was funny because started going to DIY shows like pretty much right before all that stuff happened.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, no. And then Jack was like, when I finally got a hold of him, he's like, do you need anything? Like, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I need Bandcamp links, man. I'm like, I need music to listen to. And then he would send me links, and then Bandcamp for like the first like 3 or 4 months I was at that school was blocked on the internet. and I had to like eventually I was able to finagle my way into letting them unblock it for me, but I was like, I can't open any of these links, like the internet like here won't let me. And then he was like, oh, that sucks. And I'm like, can you just like email me all the MP3s? And he was like, do you know how long that's gonna take? He's like, do you know how long it takes to upload an MP3 onto an email? And he's like, and there's like a certain limit of how many you can, so I'm gonna have to send you like a bajillion emails. And I was kind of just like, pretty please.
So what kind of stuff was he sending you?
Well, he definitely started with a lot of just like Kansas City classics. I got the Dirty Work Baby 7-inch MP3s. I got the Nuke Cult demo. And then other than that, just like a lot of stuff that he really liked. I remember getting the Shithouse 7-inch by I think it's the Diapers.
A lot of Eat the Life records.
Yeah, a lot of Eat the Life record stuff. I'm trying to pinpoint stuff exactly. Teenage Love is a Beautiful Thing 7-inch by Poor Choice. One of my all-time favorites.
Yeah, and that record has like the tie-dyed cover.
Yeah.
That one's cool.
What else? Cafeteria Hysteria by Buff Shit.
Oh yeah.
I remember after a while he's like, I can't be doing this all the time. He's like, I'm literally on my computer just all the time, on my email, sending MP3s, so that I listened to the hell out of all the stuff that he did send me.
So that was a little bit of relief for you, I guess.
Yeah, I felt like I had some contact with like my home and like stuff that I wanted to be doing.
So they were like very strict on, everyone who was there, right? Like
you had to be within eye distance of like a staff member who worked there like at all times. Like at night, like we had these people called Securitas, which was like the name of like the security company. And like in your rooms and like the dorms, like every like 15 minutes or so, like someone would walk in and like shine a flashlight around the room, just like make sure that everyone was like still in bed and stuff. But there were ways to kind of have fun. They would like take trips to Portsmouth, which is like this tiny little town in New Hampshire, every now and again to like get like ice cream or something, like every like month or so. They'd only take the kids who were behaving too. The rest of the kids had to like stay back at the school and just like be jealous.
Were you well behaved, Bennett?
I fluctuated.
Yeah.
It was definitely hard to stay sane there at some points.
And how long were you there?
I was there for 4 days shy of a year.
Wow. And I remember you had told me some story where like, as a form of punishment, people were forced to like write essays and stuff.
Oh yeah, you'd get yellow folders, which were kind of just like short. Like if you did something like kind of bad, you wouldn't be able to go on trips and stuff. And like every now and again, they'd have like breaks, like 3 or 4 days, where like your parents could come up and they could either just like hang out with you there at the school, and you could see your parents, or they'd be able to like take you off and just like go wherever. I remember me and my parents, when we'd hang out in Portsmouth, that little town, for like some time. Me and my mom drove up to Boston for a few days one time. That was pretty cool. But like if you got like a yellow folder, did something like kind of bad, you'd get like 3 pages of just kind of like short little like really dumb questions like, why did you do this thing you did? And like, how did it make you feel? How do you think it made the people at the school make you feel? And then if you did something like really bad, like broke like a really bad rule, you'd get a red folder, and then you wouldn't be able to do shit for like a month, like months plural, like sometimes depending on like how bad it was. And then you'd have to write like essays like about those questions.
Wow.
And
would you say that like overall it was like in any way like a positive or helpful experience for you, or did you just kind of feel punished by it?
I kind of felt punished by it. And the thing was, they were really good at like, first of all, like the school, like it wasn't cheap. Like either the kids who went there, like their families had money, or the like kids whose families like didn't have a whole lot of money. They were like scraping a lot of money together to send their kids there. And I remember like after like the first 3 or 4 months I was there, like my parents kind of were like, yeah, maybe we should like take you out of here. this place kind of sucks. We kind of realized that now. Like at the first time they visited, they were like, yeah, maybe we should just like let you leave. But I really wanted, at that point, I really was kind of dead set on graduating high school. And that's like really the only thing I wanted to do. I'm like, I've come this far, I might as well get my diploma. And I had been there for like 3 or 4 months at that point. And the school process moves a lot faster because like there's no like, I mean, like your breaks were only like 3 or 4 days long. So you'd be doing school like every day besides the weekend. So you'd rack up credits a lot faster than you would go into a public school. But when was talking about leaving, they told me that none of the credits I got there would have transferred to any other school that I would have gone to if I had moved back. So I kind of was like stuck there. I could have either just like left and wouldn't get my diploma, or I just had to stay there. So I stayed there just to get my diploma, pretty much. And yeah, but overall, I would say no. I don't.
So when you touched back down in Kansas City, you were just like completely stoked. Or
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Also a little nervous too. I mean, like, I was kind of like wondering like how I would kind of integrate back into just like my normal life, because I mean, usually when like people move and stuff and blah blah blah, like you kind of have to integrate into like a new way of life. And it was weird because it kind of felt like a new way of life, but I also was kind of like, this was my life, but it doesn't really feel like it was my life at the same time. And yeah, I did meet some cool people.
Yeah, and you
you
did get to record some music while you were there?
I did get to record some music while I was there. They did have instruments, and one of the like the dorm houses had like a drum set and like some really like shitty recording equipment there. And yeah, actually, Killakee Kat was born at that boarding
Yeah, that
school.
was originally like your punk recording project while you
Yeah,
were there.
that's like exactly what it was. So
Then you just
some good came out of it. And actually, the bassist of Columbine Kids went to that school with me. He's originally from Boston, and then we were such good friends that I was like, "You should move to Kansas City. You can sleep on the couch in my room if you want to."
Yeah.
And then he did eventually. And I know he left for a while, but he's actually still back in Kansas City now.
And so after that, you know our band had ended at that point, but what were your next steps after that?
My next steps after that, coming back, was to start like as many bands as I could, and I felt like I did like a pretty good job of that. None of them like went too far, but there was definitely a lot of stuff to pick through. There was, Killakee Kat turned into a band. That was like the first thing that happened when I came back, and then we started the Drippies with Noah Hayes, and then Columbine Kids, and then Narc Parade, and then I started making all the Gene tapes.
And these were all coming out on like this Bandcamp like record label page you had called Hojo the Dragon. Oh no, that was your solo stuff.
Yeah, that was all like the solo stuff.
But then you have K Crew.
Yeah, and that's where we like put the tapes out. For a while, we were selling tapes, and then the house we were living at, like after a while, like it started getting harder and more expensive to live there, and then eventually the equipment we used to like record tapes, like make our tapes, like wasn't there anymore, and then like our Bandcamp like order list started to like back up a lot, and I had to send a lot of like, sorry, your tapes haven't came yet, we're trying our best emails. And then eventually I had to like refund a bunch of people's money after they paid for tapes, just because I was like, I can't make these anymore.
But there was a pretty good demand for them while they were out there.
Yeah, for a while. It was just kind of hard because it wasn't like people ordering just like a big number of like the same tape. It was people like, usually most of the orders were like one of every single tape.
That's what I wanted.
Yeah. And after a while, like trying like the amount of time it took to make a single tape for each different band, and going to like the print store and having to like, you couldn't just like put like the same like tape art on a print and then cut them out. Like you had to do it like one by one, the certain art you had to like, I went there and I had to like resize all of them. because like the formatting for like the Bandcamp page, like the art, like it wasn't the same as when you printed it out. It wasn't like the same size it was for the tape.
Yeah.
And after a while, and then after a while, we actually lost our tape. Like the person who had the tape duplicator moved out of the house. So then, a lot of sorry emails and refunding people's money happened.
Yeah. So, but most of those bands, were like really well received from, at least in Kansas City. You guys played plenty of shows, and I know the Drippies is like kind of taking a break right now. Things have been kind of slow, but you have gotten to tour with that band, right?
Not so much tour, but played like kind of out of town. I know we've played in Chicago twice. We got to play in Fort Worth, Texas, the day before we played Badass Weekend, and we got to play Olympia Hardcore, and then we played a show in Seattle the day after that fest ended, and I believe that's it. And also Narc Parade actually played that show in Seattle the day after OHC happened too.
Did you mention the Texas dates you played?
Fort Worth and Badass.
Okay,
Weekend.
yeah. And you did Chicago? Did you mention Chicago? Sorry.
Yeah.
Man, I'm
Played
bad.
Chicago twice. I remember.
Yeah, I've watched several videos of like the shows. Like,
Yeah,
those
it's
look pretty
funny.
fun.
All the videos of Drippies playing live were definitely not our best performances.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, the show we played in Chicago, the first time we were there was the second time we played, and in true Drippies fashion, we found out we were playing probably minutes before we did. And at that point, I don't think we had really practiced a whole lot. And yeah, we definitely. I mean, it was fun. It was cool to like play out of town, but like we did not play well.
What do you think some of your best shows have been if it weren't some of those?
Definitely at Olympia Hardcore was definitely a focal point of playing with the Drippies. We showed up and had like, we didn't bring like any gear. We just had like instruments, and then a bunch of people ended up hooking us up with their gear. And I remember that was probably one of the best Drippies performances that we've ever had.
It's like a really good crowd, or
Oh yeah, like it could have gone as well as any show that we have played out of town, probably. That was definitely probably the most fun out of town show that Drippies played. And it's funny, I think probably the best Killakee Kat performance ever was probably our first show, actually, because I remember we were practicing like 3 or 4 times a week for that band, and by the time that we eventually did play live for the first time, I believe it was at Casey's place with Health Problems from Seattle. I think we had just practiced so much at that point, it was kind of just like second nature. And
how would you? Because Killakee Kat, at least at that time, was the same lineup as the Drippies,
Minus
but minus
Noah,
Noah.
yeah.
So how would you say the two bands kind of differed?
well, Killakee Kat is definitely some like 80s like Midwest hardcore worship type stuff, and Drippies kind of like took a lot of influences from like 77 punk, but it was also a lot more kind of like raw and rock and rollier. So yeah, both those bands didn't sound like really anything alike besides the fact that it was just the same people playing the same instruments.
And so, what plans do the Drippies have going forward? Like, what are the next steps there?
Well, we've been working on trying to get a 7-inch out for a while, and we have a handful of new songs that we're gonna record and put a tape out for. We're also still in the market for a drummer too.
So, if anyone
That's pretty much. I think that's one of the main reasons why the band kind of halted, is because we're having a hard time finding a drummer.
and so yeah, if anyone is watching or listening,
If you want to be the drummer in the Drippies, hit me up.
just in the comment section.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I'm excited to hear what the 7-inch is gonna sound like. Well, you've shown me like some rough recordings of it. Like it's not.
Yeah, some like unmastered ones.
Yeah, so those songs are really great. You've been playing some of those for a while now.
Oh yeah.
And so you've also started some other bands recently that are about to start playing shows. I know tomorrow is the first show with Nightcrawlers. What's that band? Like, how long ago did you start working on that?
Well, me and Jack have had the idea for this band for a long time, and it just kind of. So me and Jack had like 2 or 3 songs that we had written, and we were like, "Oh, this sounds cool. We should like start a band around this." And we were trying to find someone who we would want to front it, and then we were both like, "Oh, Kayla would be like a great front person for a band." And I'm definitely excited for tomorrow because she's definitely has a lot of creative input for this band, like visually at least.
Yeah, she told me she was gonna be like kind of dressing up and.
Oh yeah, definitely show up tomorrow. Yeah, it'll be fun.
Oh, this won't be out, like they will have played already, but
Yeah,
any future Nightcrawlers show will be
yeah.
fun to watch and listen to. And she does a lot of visual art too, right? She's at the
she's a great visual
Yeah,
artist.
she just finished at the Art Institute, I think, or like at least for the semester. Yeah. So is she going to be doing like some of like the tape art and
She
stuff?
is.
Yeah.
She is doing the tape art. Yeah, I think that's about as far as we've gone. Like visually, I think we have ideas for like stuff we want to do in the future, but they're still kind of being talked about just because like we haven't even finished recording our demo yet. But
What would you say her style is kind of like?
I'm not too savvy on my art styles, but it's definitely cool. It's definitely very, very good.
And what would you say the band's kind of sound is similar to?
Definitely some like 70s like West Coast punk influence, but and like a little post punky, but it's definitely like more intense. Like the songs have definitely like a lot of energy to them. And it's almost kind of hard to like pinpoint it because like as I've said, me and Jack have had like rough ideas for like the music of these songs for like 8-ish months at this point by now, and they've definitely evolved now that we have like had solid members for a while now. Like Jake Strife, who plays in drums in Anti-Seed, is their drummer now, and his drumming style definitely has influenced like the way the songs have gone, and even like just like Kayla's lyrics and like the effects she wants to use on her vocals too have definitely like it's definitely very unique. It's hard to like pinpoint. I think the best way I've described the band is if like suburban lawns fell into like a pool of radioactive sludge.
I know Kayla told me that because I did like a really quick phone interview with her the other day for my concert like roundup on the pitch, and she quoted you on that. So you're on there also saying that. So and you're playing guitar in this band?
Yes, I'm playing guitar in this band.
So most of the bands you do, like you're playing guitar, and is that because you're just like sitting around a lot and you just end up writing like a lot of songs on your guitar?
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of songs, at least in the past up until now with Nightcrawlers, have just basically me and Jack have either been living together or we were staying at our parents' house for a while, and like our parents' houses are just down the street from each other. So, and definitely guitar is definitely like my main instrument, and bass is his main instrument. So, yeah.
But I know you play like several different instruments. So does playing guitar get tired? Like, do you get tired of playing guitar? In all your bands?
Not really.
No?
Just because I like really love playing guitar, but like I know like I play bass and hard leather, and then that's definitely like a good switch up. And we're kind of taking a break right now too, just because our drummer is traveling. But that band is super fun to play in, and I can't wait till our drummer gets back to start writing some more songs.
Yeah, I know Michaela's pretty bummed out that that band isn't happening right now. So
me and Michaela have been.
Are you cooking something up?
Yeah, we're scheming some stuff.
That's good. So you've also been doing a lot of work on new Gene stuff lately, right?
Yeah.
Gene is your...
A lot more work than I have in the past, too.
And Gene is your current punk recording project, now that Killakee Kat's a full band.
Yeah, exactly. I definitely like working. I love being in bands, but I also definitely love working by myself, too, just with all the, 100% creative control. I'm definitely an introvert more than I am an extrovert, and I definitely I mean, I love being in bands because it's just like a melding of different ideas and stuff, and that usually comes out with something great. But I definitely like to just be like a control freak with my own thing. But yeah, this New Jeans stuff actually, part of the stuff that me and Michaela are cooking up is she's actually going to be featured in one of the New Jeans songs.
Nice.
So
what kind of sound does Gene take on?
Gene has kind of taken on a bunch of different sounds, like as the process of it has gone, like forward. Like definitely, like I made the first single just kind of out of like boredom, I think, or just like wanting to record something by myself. And I definitely, like the first tape definitely was like recording quality wise. I kind of like rushed through it, but like if you've heard it, it's like super like muddy and stuff. And there's definitely like way too much reverb on the vocals. But yeah, Gene is definitely, I don't think any really Gene anything has sounded the same. That's kind of the way I like it.
And who is Gene named after?
Gene is named after my old landlord, who me, Jack, and Joe actually, and Noah for a little bit. We lived in this apartment right off of Hyde Park, and he was just like this old, like senile dude who like owned our apartment. We rented it from him, and when we first moved in, one of the main reasons we moved in is because he told us that all the utilities were covered. We just had to pay rent. And we were like, okay, cool. And then, like, fast forward 8 months into the future, and, like, our power gets shut off one day.
Yeah.
And then we call him, and we're like, hey, our power went off. And then he was like, oh, like, have you paid the electric bill? And we were kind of like, have you paid the electric bill? Like... He was like, I never said I'd pay the electric bill. And we were like, well, then how did the power stay on for 8 months? So, yeah.
So you guys were almost squatting.
You're definitely squatting there. At that point, I think we had kind of burnt that relationship with him. And before we moved out, yeah, we definitely stayed there for like a couple weeks after the power went out just because we didn't have really a place to go yet. And... We did kind of have power. So one of our friends lived. It was like a tiny little like 1-story building, and our apartment was right in the middle. And then there was another apartment on the right side of ours, and then another one on the left side. And the apartment on the left side, one of our friends lived there. And after we had pretty much realized like our relationship with him had that bridge had been burned, Joe took it upon himself to bust a hole in the wall into our friend's apartment on the other side, and we ran an extension cord through the hole, and we had like a power strip, and we were able to plug in our TV, Joe's PS4, and like some Christmas lights and a space heater, and we were like, oh, this is all we need until we move out.
So the essentials.
I'd like to also reiterate, this all happened in like December or January. I think mid-January, I believe, so it was like 10 degrees out when this happened. So when we were all there, we were usually sitting on the couch with like this huge blanket wrapped around us, and we were just like all huddled together on the couch.
And I remember because I think the day your power got shut off, you guys were supposed to play the show I set up.
Oh, yeah, at Mills. I think we did, and I think we mentioned something about that when we played.
So, yeah, and you guys show up at like, you were supposed to play first, but you show up at like 8 o'clock
we really
before
late.
It's about to end, and you're like, can we play now? And so I let you guys play because I'm a friendly guy. And so it was a Killakee Kat show, but you were like, hey, we're going to play 2 songs with Killakee Kat, 2 with the Drippies, and 2 with Narc Parade. And I'm like, I haven't heard what Narc Parade sounds like, but okay. Oh, no, it was Columbine Kids.
Yeah, it was Columbine. It was Columbine Kids when it was still just me and Austin.
Yeah, it was a duo.
And we had only written like 2 songs at that point.
And we heard all of them.
Yeah, and that band actually started in that apartment with just me and Austin. And the first song we recorded, we actually used a drum machine, and it was like just a drum machine, just a guitar, and just Austin's vocals.
So that's some really rare K Crew.
Oh yeah.
Info for
Some of the rarest
for the folks.
I still kind of wish I had that first demo song, but unfortunately, the laptop that I recorded on had gotten stolen.
Oh man, and you never posted that?
Oh no, it was bad.
But I know for at least like one of the Gene EPs, I think you had been into like a lot of like Northwest Indiana stuff at the time, so like it had like kind of a Coneheads CCTV.
Oh yeah,
feel.
I think definitely all the Gene stuff. I mean, it's definitely like, I mean, it's just me, so definitely what I'm listening to at the time definitely shows through.
So kind of Devo core.
Yeah, a little bit.
Man, people were like I remember somebody wrote an article for, I don't even remember. It was like a national like alternative music like publication online, and someone wrote like a whole article about like Devo core and like the Coneheads and like the Jimmy YouTube page, and people were like some people got kind of upset about it. Like I know like it wasn't written like super well, but like it was kind of funny to see that on like this huge like Facebook page. And
Yeah, and I can kind of understand why people would feel that way, because especially like punk and especially like DIY music, it's kind of like, it's the kind of attitude behind it is kind of like, it's for the people who are like really into it, and I don't know, kind of like being picked apart by like different people who aren't completely savvy with it. I know definitely kind of rubs the wrong way with some people. But
are you gonna be upset if I end up writing for Noisy?
maybe a little bit, but I don't think I could ever hate you, Aaron.
Okay. Wow. So you might dislike me, but you won't hate me.
I don't think I'd dislike you. I'd just kind of be like, oh, Aaron.
Okay, I might be able to deal with that. So I'll shoot you a link when the first article. So hire me, please.
But
No.
I definitely know that some people are completely okay with that, though, too.
Yeah,
It's definitely kind of like,
friendly people, you know.
yeah.
No,
all depends who you are.
you're a very friendly guy, Bennett. So yeah, you have new Gene stuff that's about to come out. So I guess for a hint, what have you been listening to lately?
What have I been listening to lately? I think I remember I just showed up here. I was at work all day today, and I just showed up here, and I was definitely listening to like a lot of 80s Midwestern hardcore today. I think I listened to the Cows and Beer EP by D. Kreutzen like 8 times today while I was at work. I listened to the I think the Acceptance EP by Mechmensch a bunch today too.
And I know some of that like 80s Midwestern stuff kind of influenced like some of your Killakee Kat stuff also. So
Yeah.
that's kind of a little niche that you kind of keep coming back to. So
Yeah, definitely. And it's kind of just like, I don't know, like we're a Midwestern band, like Midwestern hardcore, like yeah, it's definitely like the soft spot hits the soft spot, you know.
Is there like anything that people always kind of end up like talking to you about when you tour out of state? Like they're like, "Oh, do you know these bands?" Or like, "Are you really stoked about these bands?"
People definitely, even now that they're not a band, every time I've gone out of town and I've said it from Kansas City, it usually Dirty Work pops into a conversation, like almost 100% of the time, which like is totally understandable because that band was amazing.
Yeah, that was one of the last like super poppin' bands out of the Kansas City punk scene.
Yeah, definitely. I remember I did show back up in KC just in time to see New Cold's last show too, which I was very, very excited for.
Yeah, that band. Like those are kind of sister bands to an extent.
Yeah, definitely. And like one of the things that I was like really bummed out when I like moved back here is like all the bands I had been listening to at boarding school by the time I had came back were not bands anymore. So it's kind of just like, oh well.
There might have even been some that like started and ended before you came back.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
like maybe like Night Moves. Or did you ever catch like Night Moves?
No.
Oh, that might have even actually been like slightly before you were coming to shows with me, but
Maybe.
But that was a really fun band to watch. So yeah, and I've always kind of enjoyed the dynamic that Trey and Trevor had, like, because they were both doing Dirty Work and Nuke Cult at the same time, and then they were doing Deacons and Beta Boys at the same time.
Yeah.
And so seeing all 4 of those bands whenever they would play was just like really exciting for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and I did actually get to see 3/4 of original Dirty Work, like in at Badass Weekend when the Deacons were playing. It was Trey, Barrett, Davey, and
I think Matt Perrin was
Matt Perrin was the drummer. So it was everyone besides Steve, which. I mean, it's not really Dirty Work without Steve, but like it was still very cool to see most of the original Dirty Work play a few songs. I was just like, it definitely filled a little spot in my heart that I missed never getting to see Dirty Work actually play live.
And speaking of Steve, though, now that he's in like Seattle, he sings in that
Void.
band United
Yeah.
Void, and that band is badass.
Yeah, they're really good.
And he sings in that band. Like I remember, like he had wanted to sing in a band for like a long time, and that finally happened. And I hope they tour here at some point. That would
I
be
do too.
a lot of fun to see. And also, speaking of Steve, did you see Steve Class?
Steve Class? No, I didn't.
No, like Neil couldn't make it to a No Class show one time at Worst House, and Steve knew all the words and sang the whole set with them.
Oh my gosh, that sounds awesome.
And it was the best thing.
I also was very excited to see Dark Ages and No Classes. Last
yeah,
show.
that was like,
amazing.
like
that
the
was
end
a
of an
great
era.
Show.
That was
an amazing show.
like those are like two of the first like super important like Kansas City bands for me too, because like Dark Ages and No Class, and then straight edge band wise like Kicked In, Sir Excuse,
yeah.
And then came like Dirty Work and Nuke Cult. Like so like all those bands are like super important to everyone who's like involved in Kansas City punk now, I think.
Yeah, and it definitely was very, very, very. I was very grateful to be able to see them, especially like their last show too. It definitely was. It made me feel like a part of something that I wanted to had gotten into, but had missed, not being in Kansas City at the time.
Yeah. And so what? So you're getting ready to release the Gene tape? Like it's going to be a new cassette tape that you're doing?
I'm gonna try to get it out on a 7-inch. I might put out like 2 of the songs. There's gonna be 5 songs on it. I might put out 2 of the songs as like a promo tape, and then I'm gonna bother a bunch of people until someone puts it out on a 7.
Shoot out a lot of emails. And
Yeah,
what
definitely
labels,
be annoying.
What labels are you really excited about right now that are like doing like DIY punk and stuff?
Definitely Neck Chop. They've put out I think they put out the After Dark 7 for Beta Boys, and they put out the Bleeding Gum 7. One of my favorite bands, SBF, I think has put out both their 7-inches on Drunken Sailor, which I like. Most of the stuff they put out, I really enjoy.
But Bleeding Gums are like a really awesome band, and
Yeah, they're great.
It's all younger people from Chicago, and like they always kind of end up hanging out with like all the Kansas City, like the younger Kansas City people when they come out. So those guys are a lot of fun.
They're all great people, definitely. Can't wait till you're all back.
Yeah, and they all like a bunch of them playing Cojete too, and that band's
Great band.
sick. They're just here for Wayne's World Fest. And you were at most of those shows, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
was a great fest.
What were some of your favorite moments of Wayne's World?
Definitely Mace. Obviously Bleeding Gums and Coete. It's the first time I've ever seen Nancy live too, which was awesome.
Yeah, that everybody was very excited about that.
Who else? Almost too many to name.
Yeah. Oh, and
It's also it's hard to kind of remember a lot of that fest.
yeah, there were like 30 or so bands too.
And there's a lot of alcohol too.
There was being at the Blind Tiger. I'm sure
It
that's-
definitely was a great time though.
Oh, and when Mace covered Limp Bizkit,
Yeah.
that was my favorite moment of the whole fest. It was like the first day at 5:00, and I'm like, "This is it. It's over. This is the fest." So shout out to the folks in Mace because that was a lot of fun.
That was beautiful.
Beautiful. So, yeah. What else? Are you just working on? Are you mostly focused on like Nightcrawlers and Gene right now? And
Definitely. Now that Killakee Kat's back together, we've been practicing a bunch for that too. It's kind of funny. We're like trying to relearn all the songs because like all of us definitely like forgot big handfuls of the songs. Thankfully, most of us have remembered the parts that everyone else has forgotten, though. So it was like, do any of you remember like the second part to this song? And then someone would be like, and it's always funny when Joe is the one who remembers. He was like, I know, I remember. It went like, dun-dun-dun-dun-dun, and he like doesn't. He plays drums. He doesn't play like a stringed instrument, so he just has to like hum it, and then we'll like try to figure it out. But it's actually helped us like relearn some of the songs too, and we are actually working on some new songs too. So mainly, mainly Nightcrawlers, Gene, and all the old Killakee Kat stuff, plus some new stuff. And once again, if anyone wants to play drums in the Drippies, hit me up.
And that's like kind of a lot to be doing at one time. Like, do you find yourself like just kind of generally multitasking a lot of stuff?
Yeah, I get bored really easily, and if I do just one thing for a long time, I definitely start to lose my mind a little bit, and I need to kind of keep myself on my toes a little bit, or otherwise I'll just kind of get in like a slump, I guess.
Do you see yourself like expanding to like any bands like outside of punk in the future, and like trying to do anything like any more professionally, or?
I'm definitely not gonna like take it out of the equation, but for right now, I'm definitely very happy with where I am right now.
Not gonna.
And I'm also like, I'm 20, so like I definitely have a lot more time ahead of me to figure out stuff like that too.
But kind of like where you're settled in right now creatively.
Yeah, definitely.
That's good. And
I feel like right now, especially, I think I have like the perfect balance of stuff that I'm working on. Like enough where I'm like psyched on everything that I'm doing, but also like not too much where it's overwhelming, and not too little where I'm kind of just like losing my mind, wishing I was doing something new too.
yeah, and even if you are doing like 3 or 4 projects like somewhat actively right now, it's good that you don't feel overwhelmed by it, because like
I definitely have felt overwhelmed in the past. So
yeah, because you meet some people and they're playing in like 2 or 3 bands, but they take them pretty seriously, so they're just like exhausted all the time, and they'll end up like saying no to like cool shows because they're just like so like
beat.
Yeah, they're just.
And I can definitely understand that too. I remember we had a Drippies show like 2 days after Wayne's World, and I remember me and Jack were just like not excited about it at all. We were just like, we haven't slept in like 4 days. I think in like the 4 days, like since the fest started to that show, we both of us had probably gotten like a total of like 11 or 12 hours of sleep. And yeah, we had like a show 2 days after that. Me and Jack were just like, okay, we're probably gonna just leave right after we play.
And summertime just kind of sounds like dun 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 like just.
Yeah, we we couldn't play that song. I remember we played like all the short, really fast, drippy songs because
We definitely
definitely needed to wake up. And also we had just a fill-in drummer at the time too, so we were like, yeah, we'll just teach you all the easy songs.
Yeah. So there, like, I kind of want to discuss it with you because, like, I feel like you've been somewhat kind of like neutral, or at least like really friendly about like some of the like tension that's kind of been happening lately, but like at least like on Facebook, you know, a bunch of people lately have been talking about like, oh, Kansas City punk needs to do this or that, or like, no, it doesn't, shut up, or just like someone taking like a neutral stance. But like, what is your kind of perspective on where like DIY music in Kansas City is at right now?
I definitely think, and like, especially just in like the last couple of weeks, like it's definitely gotten a lot better. And I do know that myself and people who are kind of on different sides of the spectrums, like shows need to be like at places like this, and then other people are like, well, there haven't been a whole lot of places like this, blah blah blah. We're just gonna have them here. Me, myself personally, and people who have been on different spectrums actually have met up recently and have kind of been like working to like be more just kind of like cohesive, and like definitely we talked about like it's hard to like have like a cool music scene when like no one's really like communicating with each other or like trying to help each other do like cool stuff. Like everyone's, it's like it's not good to be arguing with each other all the time.
And to clarify, it's been between people who like are booking shows at bars and like really want to have like DIY all ages house shows.
Yeah.
And to an extent the bar shows are DIY, but so that's the kind of the argument there. But so you met up with a bunch of people, and what were the discussions kind of like?
The discussions were kind of, it started out with kind of just like making sure everyone knew like what kind of like stance they had and why they had it, just kind of like getting an understanding of how the other person felt, which I think was good because there's a lot of things that people who were on one side of the spectrum like weren't aware of, like how like difficult one or the other was. And then like the rest of the conversation was like, how can we like work together to like have like a good equal balance? And I think even just like in the last couple of weeks, like there are still like a handful of shows at the bar, which are like, I have nothing against the bar shows, like really, besides the fact that like it just sucks that like under like the 21 plus thing. But like I think even now, like the amount of shows that are popping up at DIY spaces just like within like the last 2 or 3 weeks, I think it's cool to see like kind of like how fast the process has moved a little bit.
Were there any like specific like goals or strategies that kind of got laid out between everyone?
Definitely a lot of the people who were more like in favor of the bar show were people who had actually a long time ago like were running just like DIY spaces, and one of the reasons like the bar was just like a little bit more like convenient, a little bit like less stressful, but it's nice we've been getting like helpful like tips and hints about like how to like keep a DIY space going as long as it can, and like how to get around like noise and stuff, and like what you want to like make sure that like everything you have ready before you do throw a show at a space, especially if you're like booking it. So yeah, definitely actually communicating with each other instead of arguing with each other on the internet has definitely helped, which I think has been really cool to see happen, especially as fast as it has happened.
What do you think some of like the most like important like qualities of like DIY music spaces is to yourself? Like what kind of like have those had like really positive impacts on you as like a musician or a music fan, like personally?
In my opinion, probably the most important like facet of having like a good DIY show is kind of just like the inclusiveness. Is just like you shouldn't be ostracizing people from coming if they want to, and you should really only be not welcoming towards people who are coming to shows if they give you a very good reason not to be. Like if they're like being abusive or making people at shows uncomfortable, and just like, just like kind of like basic stuff like that. Just like making sure that like everyone is having a good time. And if you're doing something that is hindering that, that's kind of when it's like it gets to the point where if you're still going to come to shows, like expect to not feel welcome if you're making other people uncomfortable.
Would you say you've felt pretty welcome by Kansas City?
I feel
overall?
like I have definitely felt very welcomed, and I feel, especially being a young person going to shows too, like the amount of welcomeness I have felt since I've started coming to shows I'm very grateful for it, and I'm very grateful for the friends, especially the friends I've made that are like way older than I am, like 10 plus years older than I am. I think it's definitely makes me feel really like welcomed, which I think is kind of the most important thing. If like you want to come to a shows, like just kind of like feeling like part of going to a punk show is like you want to feel like like you're at home to a certain extent. Because I remember that first show that we went to, that with Bad Mouth, like at that Day Drinker and Shapeshifter and Neutron Rats. I remember just like I'm home. Like that's kind of just the best way I can kind of describe it.
That's awesome to hear. Is there anything else you think we should touch on? Like anything else you've been working on, or anything like you've seen in Kansas City that you think people should be excited about?
Natural Man and the Whatever Band.
Yeah.
Like that's one of my favorite new KC projects as of recent. Definitely check that band out.
Yeah, and they should have a demo out pretty soon. And I know they both recorded with James Rumsey, and he recorded the Unforgiven 5
yeah,
demo
that's
too.
yeah.
Have you seen them yet?
Oh yeah, a
Yeah.
couple of times, and I know that they just released that like that single kind of like the other day, and I was really hoping it would be that song.
Yeah,
too,
because
that's definitely my favorite song that they play live so far.
Yeah, that one just really knocks you out. I think I'm very excited to see them.
Like Unforgiven 5, BBI, like KC kind of St. Louis, like melding there. Natural Man, Anti-Seed, like just like the newer bands. Like it's cool to see all the new bands kind of popping up in KC too.
Yeah, it did kind of feel like almost like a drought for a short time because I'm probably going to sound corny, like bringing up this, like I kind of called it like the exodus of like, you know, a handful plus of like Kansas City punks moving to Olympia and Seattle. So did you feel at all like kind of discouraged when all those guys left?
I mean, definitely. I think there was definitely a different feeling in the air. Like, I think it definitely did a number on like how everyone kind of went about things for a while, but I feel like especially now that summer started, things have really been starting to pick up, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, we have all these new bands, we have new DIY spots, and
yeah, and there were a great handful of people that were keeping things going, like during that little droughty period, which was still really awesome. So,
yeah, shout out to all of them.
Yeah, shout out. You know who you are.
But yeah, I think that's most of what I want to cover. I appreciate you coming out here and talking with me about it, Bennett.
My pleasure, Aaron.
Everyone should be looking out for new stuff. The Nightcrawlers demo coming soon. Hopefully a Gene 7-inch and a Drippies 7-inch, and more shows from Killakee Kat. Just as a reminder, you can go to shuttlecockmusic.com and read everything on there and listen to the other podcasts. We had one with Antonio Marquez from Spine a couple weeks ago, so punk and hardcore fans can check that one out. And there's also the Shuttlecock Music Store, where there's t-shirts, zines, and buttons. And the podcast is part of the A.D.D podcast feed, so look for new episodes from Jason Barr coming soon. And yeah, I appreciate you coming out here. I think we had a good interview.
No problem.
Oh, man, we're bringing it in.
Later, y'all. I need to pee.
Oof. Yeah, let's get you out of here.